Okay, welcome to Banksy's Kitchen. Today we're going to make crepes. And as you know, I'm gluten intolerant, so we'll be making gluten-free crepes. So what we need, plain flour. I use potato starch. You can use cornstarch, tapioca starch, sweet potato, which is tapioca, whatever you like. Salt, 1 egg, which my ladies out in the backyard have been laying for me. Whisk in a bowl and a crepe pan. Now, a crepe pan is a really flat-sided pan, so it's a bit more tricky to make if you don't have a crepe pan. So if you can find one, I bought this about 40 years ago, so they're not the most common thing around, but if you can find one, they're ideal to have. All right, we'll get all this together and then we'll join back. Welcome back. We've got all our ingredients sorted. So we need plain flour. I don't really measure this because it just depends how many crepes you want to make. So, and you can freeze them. So if you don't use them all, that's fine. Freeze them and take them out at another time and you can use them. They're easy to separate once they're frozen as well. Okay, so I've put 3 heaped of these spoons in there. So you need twice as much plain flour as you do starch. So starch I'm going to need about 1.5 heaped spoons. So we've got 1, about half, near enough. Again, it's not a science, you don't need to be exact. And the least amount of egg you can use is 1. So obviously you're going to make a kilo of this and half a kilo of that, you need a few eggs. 1 egg, drop that in. And some salt, just a little bit, 1/4 teaspoon, half a teaspoon, something like that. And then some water. So add the water slowly because this will become runny really quickly. And then you've got to add more flour. And it goes on. So a bit more water. Just mix it up with a whisk. So because it's a gluten-free flour, you don't need to beat the hell out of it like you would normally do with a normal wheat flour. Because there's no gluten in it, so it's just gums. You don't need to develop any gluten or anything like that. So, a little bit more. Lumps will dissolve out later on, so you don't need to worry about that either. Starting to get there now. Now, if you want to make a batter, it's quite similar. You'd use soft raising flour, a pinch of baking powder, still you put your starch in, and that's about the consistency for batter. But we're going to make it a little bit thinner because we're making crepes. And I'm not sure how much water I've put in, but you'll get it with the right consistency if you remember how much I had at the start of this and how much is there now. You can probably work it out. Right, that's pretty close. We'll just a little bit more water. You may need to adjust this consistency as you go on. That's looking all right. Okay, we'll let this rest a bit, and you don't need to let it rest for half an hour like you would normal crepes. 5 to 10 minutes while I get the pan organised, and we'll get back to you. All right, so now what we do is we've got our crepe pan on the heat. We put a little bit of oil into the pan, very little, and we use some paper towel to just wipe it around. So you don't want this pan too hot because it'll burn. But you don't want it cold either, because if it's cold, it'll stick. So it's a tricky one. Now, normally don't get too concerned if the first one doesn't work, because It's like anything, the first one always sticks. So that's the consistency you're looking for, and we'll get it started in a minute. All right, so I've done the first one, and as I predicted, it wasn't perfect. So we just continue, rub a little oil on again. Some more crepe mix. Now I might get a dozen out of this, which if I do, that's awesome. I'll freeze them and then just shake it around so that it spreads around the pan. Whoop, and if that happens, don't panic. Just push it back out on the stove. Now, if they're not perfectly round, that also doesn't matter, because when we make crepes, we're going to fold them anyway. So we just let that, you can see it's starting to cook on the top. If I can get a close up. So that's like that. Now, if you want to use a lifter, but it's pretty easy. Look, it's pretty easy just to flip them over. See, even the professionals make mistakes. It's how you recover. It's not the mistakes you make. All right, we'll do a couple more and then you'll get the idea of how we're supposed to do it. I'll just dip that oil again. This pan is such a good pan. Look, if you try Gemini catering equipment, I think they're in Lynbrook or somewhere like that, they might have one of these. If you speak to Jim or Jenny, they'll be able to help you get one anyway. Cook that a bit longer again. Now, crepes, ideally you want thin. If I was doing this for the professional scene, I would strain this. You can see there's a couple of lumps there and you don't really want that. Flip it over again. Again, you can just use an egg lifter to flip them over, and then just put them on the bench like that. Okay. Once they're cold, you can stack them on top of each other. So another one. Just spread it around. Don't be scared. Again, leave that on. While that's cooking, I'm going to flip these other pancakes over, these other crepes over on the bench. And they'll get better as the more you do, the better they get. Okay, it's not sticking. Shake it just to see. Push, bring it to the edge, flip it over. Too far. I used to be really good at this when I was an apprentice. I used to have 6 pans going at once, but anyway, that's a long time ago. Oh, it doesn't take long on the second side. One more, and then we'll show you how we stack them up. Oil again, just a little. And this is starting to thicken up a little bit. So if it gets too thick, you can add a little bit of water to it. But again, just be careful how much you add. All right, back on there. Shit. I'm going to cut that. Okay, flip him over. All right, so now we'll just show you what we've done. We've got 5 there. And so I've been turning these over just to cool them down. Once they're cold, which they're cold enough now, this one's still a bit warm, you just stack them on top of each other. Pop them on a plate, in the fridge, freezer, whatever, and use them as you need them. If you're concerned it's hard to separate, maybe do 3 or 4 and then put a piece of greaseproof or something, and then again, and then freeze the whole lot all at once. Okay, I'm going to continue to make these. You have a bit of fun, enjoy. And one other trick, if you want to practice this flipping thing, put some salt in the pan, rock salt, something like that, and just practice with rock salt, or rice. And when you feel confident, you can show off in front of all your mates how you can toss pancakes. All right, good luck. All right, I'm back with the last couple to go. I think we've got about a dozen in the stack. So I just want to explain a couple of things to you when we're making these. See how I'm spreading it around? And it starts to slow down. So that means it's cooking. Put it back on the heat, and what you want to do, it looks like a wet batter at the moment, and as it cooks, it starts to set on top. So I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but you see it looks wet. Over here it's starting to cook and set, and it's just a little bit wet there. And now that's ready. So you can see. And once you flip it over, it only needs 10-15 seconds on that side, and it's ready to tip onto the bench. And then you do the next one. So that's the trick. You don't want too much colour on these crepes. I keep calling them pancakes, they're actually crepes. And the other thing is, don't wash your pan. When you're finished, wipe your pan out with paper towel, let it go cold, and then put it back in the cupboard. Don't use detergent, because once you've got a crepe pan that's right, you don't want to be putting detergent in it and upsetting it, because then it will start to stick. So you just leave it. It's not dirty, there's nothing in there. Just wipe it out with paper towel. You see that's there. Now if I tried to flip that now, that would probably collapse on itself, because you can see it's wet on that right hand side over here. So you don't want it too wet. Okay, it's just about ready to flip now. So that's better. Then you just flip it over. Right, again, not much colour, perfect. So we've got one more after this. A little bit more oil. Yeah, you're just rubbing it on. It's on the paper cloth. Just rub a little bit on, and this will be our last one. So look, it's a little bit tedious, but I really want you guys to see how easy it is, and any little tricks that'll help. You can buy these things, and they're not that expensive, but why would you? When you can make it yourself, they're so much better, and they look authentic. They're not a uniform square shape or something like that you'd normally buy. And look, you can use these for Peking duck too if you wanted to. So there's so many uses for them. And over the next couple of videos, we're going to show you how to do seafood crepe. Whoop. And also we're going to show you how to do a traditional Taiwanese breakfast called dan bin, which is like an egg pancake. So have fun, enjoy, watch the next couple of videos, and you'll see what we're going to turn these crepes into.